Suriano has officially re-enrolled at Rutgers, which means I can do an official Rutgers lineup preview. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Josiah, and welcome to another lineup preview here on the Fanco Wrestling YouTube channel. And this is an exciting week if you are a New Jersey wrestling fan, if you are a Rutgers wrestling fan, because we now know that Nick Suriano has officially returned to the Scarlet Knights. It was a little bit up in the air before. We weren't really sure what was going on with Nick Suriano. Was he going to return? What was he going to do? Well, now we know he is officially returning to the lineup. But there are some other guys in this lineup that you should also be excited about. Now, before I get into the 125-pound wrestlers, I do want to say that I did another video on this channel just a few weeks back discussing 3 potential Rutgers lineup previews. Now, you could check that out. That's another video when we weren't really sure what was going to happen with Nick Suriano and which way Sebastian Rivera was going to go. And we still have 3 potential lineups for them. But in this video, I'm going to tell you the most likely scenario for what is going to happen now that we know that Nick Suriano is returning to Rutgers. So now at 125 pounds, we get into Nick Aguilar, who is returning for this season. But we also have Dylan Shaver, who is a freshman. He is a top 100 recruit out of the class of 2020, an Ironman Beast of the East and Brecksville Placer. Now we also have Nick Aguilar, who I said is returning to this lineup and will be a solid start off for Rutgers at 125 pounds. And this will really get into a pretty good 1-2-3 punch as you move from 125 up to 141. Nick Aguilar was a Navy Classic champion last year, which was a good start to the season for the freshman at the time. He ended up having a 24-11 record on the season overall. And really, look, he had a very strong first half of the season. His, worst match was really getting tech followed by Pat Glory. That was his worst match probably the entire year, but coming at the beginning of the season wasn't he could build from that. Now, he ran into a little bit of a difficult dual meet run towards the middle and end of the season, which kind of, hurt him off, but he is coming into this next season ranked as a top 20 ranked wrestler at 125 pounds. These rankings, of course, coming from Flow Wrestling, which we're likely going to see him, start again at 125. And this is the big one, is Nick Suriano. Now, the question here is, what's going to happen with Suriano? Is he going to go 25? Is he going to go 33? Because we know he's likely going to be wrestling at 57 kilos for the Olympic trials. I see him going 133, and kind of the news through the grapevine is that he's likely not going to want to go back down to 125. He's going to have some strong competition back down there, but, he's likely going to stay at 133. Now, the guy who was here last year was, of course, Sammy Alvarez. Alvarez had a solid season, placing 6th at the Big Ten Championships with a great win over Ridge Lovett of Nebraska at the tournament, which, I mean, what a great match that was. Now, he had some close losses at the tournament to Seth Gross and Roman Bravion, who were 2 of the top dogs at the tournament, and he came into this season, he was going to come into this next season as a top 10 ranked wrestler, and so we see that Rutgers has a lot of depth here, and with this depth, of course, comes Nick Suriano, and Nick Suriano returning from his Olympic redshirt year and re-enrolling at Rutgers. Now, in his previous season, he was 29-3, which is when he won his national title, of course, his first national title, after transferring out of Penn State, then wrestling a season, losing in the national finals to Spencer Lee, and then finally becoming Rutgers' first ever NCAA champion. Of course, the second NCAA champion was Anthony Astronaut in the same year, which was such a historic year for the Rutgers program. But now with Nick Suriano returning, he is a serious threat at 133 and just makes that weight this much more exciting because we don't know what's going to happen. Suriano will be the top dog here, but we have a lot of toss-ups at the weight. And as far as we go onto 141 pounds where we get into Sebastian Rivera, but first I want to tell you about this headband that I'm wearing, which is brought to you by Be Superior Wrestling. Be Superior Wrestling is a wrestling apparel and streetwear brand with comfortable shirts, sweatshirts, sweatbands, headbands, as well as stickers and more. Now, if you want to be superior, I recommend that you check out the link in the description down below where you can check out some of the apparel. This headband that I'm wearing in this video is super comfortable, and I wear it around actually all the time, especially during my workouts. I wear it out on my runs. And that brings us into 141 pounds. And at 141 pounds, we have a couple of guys here who I want to discuss. Now, first is Jojo Aragona, who started last year at 141 pounds. He's not going to be able to start over Sebastian Rivera, but we're likely going to see him be able to take that, redshirt year. Now, we could also see Aragona bump up to 141 pounds, but, the question is that too much of a jump? It's potential that could happen, especially with, he was being majored by some of the top guys that weight, like Nick Lee, although we had some close matches with Chad Red and Calucci. I don't know that 149 would be the best weight for him, but, we could see that. Now, as far as Sebastian Rivera, I mean, what a huge gain for Rutgers. And this is one of the strongest 1-2 punches in all of not just Big Ten wrestling, but in the NCAA, considering that you have two of the top guys back to back at 33 and 41. Now, Sebastian Rivera is yet to become an NCAA champion, but he is a multiple-time All-American. He is a multiple-time Big Ten champion, and he could be one of the, guys who goes from 125 to 133 to 141, going weight to weight to weight, and winning a Big Ten championship at each weight. We could see that happen. Now, 141 in the Big Ten is tough. I mean, first of all, you have Nick Lee from Penn State, then you have Jaden Ironman at Iowa, and then we want to talk not in the Big Ten, but another top guy at 141 is, of course, Yanni Diakomahalis. So this weight is going to be tough. How will Sebastian Rivera adapt to the weight? We'll see. That's another video for another time, but I think he has a strong chance to do very, very well against him. We've seen him knock off top competition in the past. I don't think 141 is going to be a major problem for him, but is a strong weight for Rutgers. Now, as we get into 149 pounds, this is a weight that Gerard Angelo started last year. He wasn't started last year, was injured at the Big Ten championships, and it's a potential that he could have qualified for the NCAA championships, but he, if he was not injured, but ultimately he did not. Now, the guy who's likely going to be the starter here is Ryan Vullock, who is a PIAA state champion, who is a redshirt freshman. Now, he was out last year due to injury, so we didn't really get a lot of looks at how he was going to compete in college, but we know in high school he was a Beast of the East and Powerade champ, which was very impressive. As we know, those are some of the top high school tournaments in the entire country. Now, if you haven't checked out my video on the top high school tournaments in the country, I recommend that you check out that video. We're going into each of those right now in our Fanco 50, the top incoming freshman playlist that's going on right now. But as far as Ryan Vullock, he is the guy that's looking to be the starter at 149. We could see him, he's a top 30 recruit in the class of 2019, and he's kind of the guy that Rutgers is leaning towards at 149. Again, could see Aragona bump up. You could see Angelo start, but Vullock's likely going to be your guy. As we moved into 157, we're going to see Van Brell again, likely going to get the starting position. He was a Big Ten placer last year and ended up earning an at-large bid, qualifying for the NCAA championships. Now, Van Brell, he had a decent season last year, was 3-6 in Big Ten duels, so he had some good wins. Surprising wins to me over Elijah Cleary of Ohio State, as well as Bo Pfeiffer, which was a good win for him over at Penn State. But he was losing to some of the other Big Ten guys, which was, unfortunate for him. He wasn't able to get those wins. He's going to have to find a way to get that if he wants to make this 157 spot a little bit tougher for Rutgers. And another spot that's going to have to be tough for Rutgers is 165. Now, Donner was a starter here last year who did not qualify for the national tournament. We're going to likely see Robert Kennard pump into this lineup. He was 16-6 as a redshirt. Now he's going to be in his redshirt freshman year. Now, Kennard is he placed at the National Collegiate Open last year, a wrestler out of New Jersey. And one of the things, that I've always kind of criticized Rutgers on is they're always just going after these New Jersey guys. Not that they're, good or bad or anything in between, but I feel like you have to diversify your lineup a little bit and not just go with in-state talent all the time. I mean, at one point it was just 10 straight New Jersey guys. Do you not have anybody else in the country? But anyway, that's just my quick take on the Rutgers lineup as a whole. So Kennard is going to be a guy who I think is going to be the starter here next year. But as far as we move up to 174 pounds, Willie Scott is graduating, but Joe Grello is going to be moving in. Now, Grello is ranked currently as a top 25 guy in the country. He was injured last season with a knee injury, but in his previous years, he actually did end up making the round of 16 at the NCAA championship. championships. This is a tough weight. At 174 pounds in the Big Ten is a tough weight. You look at 174, you have, of course, the top dog at the weight right now is Michael Kemmerer, but then you have Miles Amin, you have Mikey Labriola, you have Caleb Romero, all at some of the top schools in the country, and Grello is going to have to find a way to compete. Now, the other guys here are Jackson Turley, who's a multiple-time Virginia State champion and national preps champion, as well as Connor O'Neill, who's a top 100 recruit in the class of 2020, excuse me. Now, we also have at 184 pounds, this is where things get interesting with another solid freshman moving in. Another solid freshman I think could be moving in. Now, Billy Janzer was the starter here last year. I think he's going to likely bump up to 197 pounds. You'll see that in just a second, but John Poznansky is likely going to be the starter here in his freshman year. You know, maybe he pulls out, maybe Rutgers doesn't want him to start, but that's who I see starting. Now, who is he? He is a New Jersey State champion. Like I said, Rutgers likes their New Jersey guys. A Beast of the East champion, a top 20 recruit in the class of 2020, a Super 32 finalist, and I just really think he has a good chance of making the getting on the mat this season. He wrestled actually at the Princeton Open last year, which was, impressive for him to get in there. Now, this is Poznansky right here, and, you see he's a tough guy at 184 pounds. I recommend that you check out some of his other matches. You'll be able to find some on YouTube, but a tough guy is going to be him for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and that moves us up to 197 pounds, where, like I said, you're going to see Billy Janzer. You saw Jordan Pagano here last year at 197. Janzer here was 21-10 at 184 pounds, the sophomore. Now, maybe he stays down at 184 and we see one of these other guys fill in. That is a likely scenario, but I think, more likely than not, the best lineup for Rutgers is going to be Janzer up here at 97, Poznansky down at 84. Now, Janzer is actually ranked in the top 20 at 184 pounds. He was pinned by Aaron Brooks last year. That was, unfortunate match for him. Unfortunate fall, but he does have wins over Jelani Embry of Michigan as well as Cam Caffey of Michigan State. So he does have some solid wins, and I think you could see him do well bumping up to 197. Probably put on some weight in this offseason, as we've seen a lot of guys have put on some weight in this offseason. You could see some definite shakeups for Rutgers here. Now that brings us to the heavyweight. At heavyweight, we have Christian Calucci returning to this lineup again next year for his senior season. Alex Exposito started last season but did not qualify for the national tournament. Now, as far as Calucci comes, he was actually injured last year and was granted a 6th year, which is good for him. He has a win over Esposito at the Navy Classic at the beginning of last season, and his younger brother is also in this lineup in Nicolo Calucci at 285 pounds. And that brings us to the Rutgers lineup. I think they have a strong chance of competing against some of the other strong Big Ten teams with this dominant lineup, especially in those weights down below. Now, if you're interested in that top high school tournaments, what are the toughest high school tournaments? I recommend that you check out this top video. And for more lineup previews, go ahead and click this bottom video right here.